All right, so today is actually where we go over a little deeper into completing the square like we did yesterday. But we're also going to do something called solving equations by using the square root property, which actually you're going to be like, you're doing the exact same things we've been doing forever. Yes, because I've been showing you things along the way that are going to help us out and make this lesson really easy. So this whole section right here is solving equations by using the square root property, which means we can take the square root of both sides. And when we take the square root of both sides, we end up gaining that plus or minus. So you're going to see that a lot here. So it says solve each equation. Now notice that I only have an x squared. I don't have an x, like there's just an x squared. There's no like negative 4x. So this doesn't seem like the one that I'm going to do where I end up factoring and completing the square. There's nothing to factor here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take that negative 4 and move it to the other side. Plus 4, and we get 3x squared is equal to 72. Talk to me about what I'm probably going to do next. Divide by 3. Let's get that x by itself beforehand. And that, excuse me, leaves me with x squared is equal to 24. How about now? Good, square root.
Not x plus minus 6.
Okay, so 6 and 4, 24 breaks down to the square root of 4 times the square root of 6.
Just be 2 square root of 6.
See, you guys don't even need me. You already know all this stuff. There's our first one. And these strategies are the same ones we're going to use on each problem below it. We're going to keep going through. Some of them will end up as an imaginary number. You know that you shouldn't end up with i's, though, unless we are taking the square root of a negative number. Yes, sir?
Why couldn't you just like factor by just like minus 68, minus 68? Oh, never mind.
There's no x. There's not that middle term. We would just have two things. So let's do, oh, sorry.
49 is we can choose.
Okay, so we go to B here. Now notice in this case that I go, well, let me see what I can do. I do have an x here. This is what Joe was asking about here. Is like, let's see about factoring here. So one of the things that I can do is I can see if I can factor. So let's just see if we can factor, because this is always the first thing that I would do. I would go minus 27, and we get x squared minus 10x minus 2. Wait, well, because I'm subtracting 27 from each side, right? To see whether I can factor this. Because here's the thing. It's obvious now what like the kind of things that we're doing, but I'm just going to see whether I can factor this. Are there two things that multiply to give me negative 2 that when added will give me negative 10?
Oh, but before, if it didn't do that, you could have factored it. Wait, why'd you subtract 27?
Because remember, like, if we're going to factor, we should probably see, we need to get everything to one side first. And we're seeing that it doesn't factor. But check this out. We know that it doesn't factor. Like, we tried to factor this and we go, wait, that doesn't factor. So now I'm going to do exactly what we did yesterday and go, bro, this does not factor. So you know that negative 2? I'm going to move it back to the other side. I'll be like, wait, this did not help me out. I'm going to move it back to the other side. Okay? And I'm leaving that gap there just like I did before. Same thing as yesterday. Talk to me about what we did yesterday. That same process.
Negative 10 divided by 2.
Okay, good. So we take negative 10 divided by 2 and then square it. So half of negative 10 is negative 5, and we square that, we get positive 25. Positive 25. So on the right-hand side, this becomes 27. On the left-hand side, what does that factor into?
5 and 5.
X minus 5.
Wait, so you could have just left it.
That's what I said before.
So in the beginning, like if I could have just left it, but the thing is this, is that as you move forward in math, it's not going to tell you which method you should use. You have to figure it out. So the very first thing I would always check is when I move that 27 over there, does it factor? Because if it did, that would be the easiest way. I could skip all of this completing the square. But that didn't work. So now I'm going, okay. So yes, I should check it to see if it factors. It didn't factor. So I go, okay, let's look at this.
But we're not done.
We're not done. You're right. X minus 5 squared is equal to 27. Square root of both sides. And because we square rooted both sides, what happens?
Plus minus.
Plus or minus. A lot of people forget that. Let's work on that 27. Okay, so we get x minus 5 is equal to plus or minus 3 times the square root of 3. Now, what am I going to do? Plus 5. So we get x is equal to 5 plus or minus 3 square root of 3, because I added that 5 to the other side. Yes, ma'am. Sorry? Yeah, for sure, for sure. On which part?
Okay, wait. So when you do on like top, like if you do it on like the top, if you do -5.
Back to the top?
Yeah.
Okay.
The -5 times -5, isn't that a negative?
A negative times a negative is always a positive. Yeah. But you're right, if it was addition, it would have been negative, but this is this.
So where did you put 25? Like why did you put that there?
So remember how I left that blank? I left myself a blank here because, that's not a highlighter. I left myself a blank there, and I wanted to figure out what number went there. And I figured it out by doing this. I took half of the middle number, and I squared it, which gave me 25.
And you have to add.
And I added it to the other side as well. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. It's not fair to just add 25 to one side and think it's okay. But it is okay as long as you do it to both sides. The next one should be super easy. Yes, ma'am. You want to do the next one? Okay. All right.
Wait, what did you subtract it? 25?
Well, we added 25. That's a positive 25, so I added 25 to one side, and I added 25 to the other. All right, you want to take it?
Yeah.
Do it.
Square root both sides.
Good. I'm going to try not to talk. You try to give me as much information as possible.
It'll be x minus 3 equals the square root of plus and minus square root of 7. Minus 3, plus 3, I'm sorry. And x equals 3 plus or minus 7 square root of 7.
Done. If 7 did break down, we'd have to break it down. It does not break down, so we're going to stop right there. Somebody else want to try D? Same exact setup. All right, take it.
So you're going to square both sides.
Square root both sides.
And then you get 2x minus 3. Equals plus or minus square root of 7. Then you're going to add 7. Add 3.
What does 2x equal to? Like, what am I going to write on the other side of this equal sign? What am I going to write on the other side? Like, what thing?
Oh, okay, you're going to divide by 2.
Wait, no, I mean, I'm looking for
Oh, no.
what goes here.
3 plus or minus square root of 7.
Okay.
And then you divide by 2.
And then, I just did this line just to illustrate what area I was talking about. And then, as she said, we're going to divide by 2. And we get x is equal to 3 plus or minus the square root of 7 divided by 2. And notice that 3 and the 2 can't cancel out. They're both outside numbers. They can't cancel out. There's nothing to reduce there. Yes, sir?
If you like FOIL it out, can you go back up a little bit? If you FOIL that out, and then you do it like the way that you did it like to the other problems, and you still get that same answer?
If you FOILed it out, you would get something that factors back into this. Because what would happen is you would have a quadratic. When you did this, you would end up with 4x squared minus 12x plus 9, when you work that out, equals 7, which is a harder way to do it from there. And then you would be like, well, what can I do with that? You would try subtracting 7, you would try factoring it wouldn't lead you anywhere, so you'd be back to going, okay, I gotta factor this. So ultimately, if you worked it out that way, it would be a long process that didn't take you towards the goal.
Okay. So you get the question wrong.
You wouldn't get it wrong. You would probably just end up right back here doing exactly what we did. You'd probably get a lot of frustration because it's not taking you anywhere.
Okay.
All right, somebody want to try this one? Yes, sir.
Okay. So you square root both sides. Which gives you x plus 5 is equal to square root of -4, plus or minus. And then you break that down to square root of -1 and square root of 4. And square root of 4 breaks down to 2. So that gives you x plus 5 is equal to plus or minus I times 2, which is 2I.
Oh, sorry, I forgot the plus or minus. My fault.
Subtract 5. Plus or minus 2.
So no new steps today. We're not doing anything that we haven't done before. It's just kind of pulling everything together today. But we are going to do some completing the square here in just a moment, which I don't think was terribly difficult. We have done that before. And actually, you're going to see the second part of that we're doing is going to be like so fast. All right. Somebody else, hook me up.
-5.
Okay, so we're subtracting 5.
I think.
It's whatever we want to do. We can do that. So we get 4x squared minus 25 is equal to 0.
And now we're gonna do -25. I mean plus 25.
Okay.
Divide by 4.
Like that? Good. Plus or minus. What? We can... Right. Remember when you have fractions, it tends to be what happens is we separate the top from the bottom, which means that it might be able to go a little bit further. Talk to me about that. Can you speak up just a little bit? Sorry, it's really loud in the hallway. 5/2. X is equal to plus or minus 5/2. Okay, one more from those types right there. Now, one of the things that we could do is we could check if this factors. I'm going to do this part for you because I actually know that this doesn't factor, but I'm just going to show you real quick. So let's say that maybe I just wanted to check whether it factors. So I go, let me try subtracting 49. Let me try subtracting 49, and I would get here, x squared plus 8x minus 33 is equal to 0. Now, there's only one way I can think of, two ways to think of that I can make negative 33. I could use 1 and 33, or I could use 3 and 11. So, are either one of those going to work? Like, will that factor? No, because, let's see if we did this. Let's say we used 3 and 11. If I had a positive 11 and a negative 3, that would get me to 8, but not I'd get positive 8. But this, right there, does that look like? You see what I mean? Can I factor this or not?
No.
What is negative 3 times positive 11?
Yeah, you can.
And what is positive 11 times negative 3? Positive 11 plus negative 3. This really does factor right there. I don't even need to do any of that work. This is what I mean by that. That it's always a good idea to just check, because some of these situations I go, oh, I didn't need to do the square root at all for this situation. That's not going to be something I need to do. It just ends up as x equals 3 and x equals negative 11. So you would still get the same thing if you did it the other way. You would end up moving the number to the other side. You take the square root of both things, but this one just factored. It's worth checking. Sometimes that's going to happen, and it'll still work out the other way, but this seems so much faster. Just go, oh, let me just check and see if it does factor. It did factor. 33 was a great number to have because I could only think of 2 ways to make it.
When you do the square root way, it doesn't give you 2 answers.
It does. Let me show you doing the other way. Okay, let's pretend you were wait a minute, I didn't do it that way. Let me show you the other way real quick. We got x squared plus 8x plus 16 is equal to 49. There's our start there. And so let's say that we do this from the beginning. And we go, well, first of all, this left side actually factors already. Okay, so x plus 4 and x plus 4. So we already have a perfect square right there, but so let's do it like this. Let's try it this way. X plus 4 squared is equal to 49.
Square root both sides, and you get
X
x plus 4 is equal to 7.
plus 4 is equal to, the square root of 49 is 7. But what's missing so far?
Minus 4.
Wait, something's missing here.
Oh, plus or minus.
Plus or minus. And then, what do I do next?
Minus 4.
Minus 4. So we get x is equal to negative 4 plus or minus 7. Now, that doesn't look like the same answer. However, it is x equals negative 4 plus 7. That's this. Look, negative 4 plus 7. It's also negative 4 minus 7. And let's see what those two things end up being.
Yeah, negative 11.
So we get 3 and negative 11.
But which one's right?
So you could choose this one that gives you the answers 3 or negative 11, or you could choose this one that gives you the answers 3 or negative 11. Whichever sets of 3 and negative 11 you want.
So I can't, so my answer cannot be negative 4 plus or minus 7?
Oh, this is, so here, there's still stuff you can do with that. Like before, like when we had x's, we couldn't add them together. A negative 4 plus 7 I can do. And a negative 4 minus 7, I can do that. Like that's something I know how to do. So I need to continue doing it. Like it would be like leaving this. If you left an answer like this, right, you would be like, why did you leave your answer like that? Or even if, like, let me just do it, like, why would you leave the answer like that? There's still work to be done. Okay, here's going to be like the fastest thing ever, and you're going to be like, wait, that's it? Yep, this is going to be it. So, I taught you guys to complete the square yesterday, and we taught it very quickly, and it's great. All they're looking for here is what number would go here in that little blank right there, where we took half of the middle number and then squared it. We're looking for what number would end up in there. Well, we're going to take this, and guess what we're going to do with it?
Divided by 2.
And then do what with it?
Square root.
What?
I spelled it too, I'm sorry.
Square it. So there's squaring and square rooting. So this becomes negative 1 squared. And what is negative 1 squared? The number that goes there is 1.
Wow.
Yay, wow. So we're going to do the same thing on all these. You're going to see it's going to be really quick. Even if it's a 5, and you'd be like, but Mr. Heyer, I don't know how to do 5 halves. Okay, fine. What is this then? Right? That's what it means. Square the top, square the bottom. 25 over 4. Sometimes it be hitting different.
So that's the answer, 25.
25 over 4.
Wait, so for A, the answer is 1?
Yep. Because we got negative 1 and then we squared it. And negative 1 squared is 1. Let's do this one. Talk to me.
4 over 2 squared. 2 squared 4.
Done. Well, the catch is this is one step in completing the square, and the next problems we're going to do is exactly what we did yesterday, where we had to add that 4 to both sides, and then we have to make, like, we have to go down and we have to square root both the sides. We've already done the catch. Like, the catch is not really a catch. I taught you that yesterday because I knew you could handle it.
Yeah, we did brain.
Talk to me.
4 negative 4.
Negative 4 divided by 2.
Okay. Squared becomes what?
Negative 2 squared.
Which becomes
4.
done. Talk to me about E.
3 over 2 squared. 9 over 2. I mean 9 squared.
Right. Remember that becomes 3 squared over 2 squared, which is?
9 squared.
That's right.
Thank you.
Oh,
3 squared is 9. 2 squared is 4. It ends up as 9/4. Talk to me.
36 negative 0.04.
But actually, but there's something you can do in the parentheses. If you can do it in the parentheses, do it.
Divided by 2.
What is negative 6 divided by 2? And what is negative 3 squared? It's always easier if you can do it to just do it.
I'm ready to cry.
Okay. You can cry on my shoulder.
Okay.
All right. What am I doing?
Divided by
18
2
divided by 2.
squared, and it's 9 squared. I'm ready.
This makes me.
My dad loves to do it for some reason.
That's
He'll sit there with his
awful.
calculator, just like nerd out for like 30 minutes.
All right. Let's nerd out on H. What am I doing?
Divide by 2 squared, and then square like both,
Okay, good. Square the top.
and then 14 over.
No, it's 49.
Oh, 49. Sorry, I thought it was 2.
So we get 49 over
4.
49 fourths.
I know. I just realized that.
I skipped what?
Just skip 6. She went 4.
Oh. All right. Last one for this section, and then we go on to completing the square, which we may finish up everything in. So let's do this one. Okay, keep going.
Square.
Squared.
22 over 4. I mean, what did I just say?
You're so funny.
So what did we say this becomes?
121
Over 4.
I said 22.
I said that too, and I erased it.
Okay, so let's take a look. I missed the ones that were down below. Okay, these are the ones where we are completing the square. I'm not even going to go over all that because we did everything that we can do. Solve by completing the square. Let's just see if we can factor this first of all. Let's just see. Do I have two numbers that will multiply to give me -1 that will add to give me -2?
No.
No. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, just as we did before, I'm going to make myself some room over here. So I am going to add 1 to both sides, the same as we did yesterday, and we get here, x squared minus 2x. Here's my little gap for the number I'm going to put in, plus 1.
And it'll be plus 1.
Well, if you can't factor it, we need another way to keep going. That's like, if factoring it didn't work, well then what else could we do? Completing the square is an option. It takes more work than just factoring, but whatever, if you're stuck, it's a way to go. So now we need to figure out what number goes in that blank. How do we find out what number goes in the blank?
Negative
Negative.
2 divided by 2 squared.
So this becomes -1
Negative 1 squared is this one.
is a positive 1, and I have to add 1 to the other side as well.
So then do x plus 1 plus 1.
Is that what it is? I hear two different answers. X minus 1 and x minus 1, because -1 times -1 would be +1, but -1 plus -1 would be -2. Okay, what am I doing next?
Now I'm going to
X
do
minus 1. Then you square root both sides. So then it's x minus 1 equals plus or minus square root of 2. And then by 2, right?
plus 1 subtract.
We're trying to get x by itself. So we get x is equal to
1 plus or minus square root of 2.
beautiful.
Wait, can you zoom out?
Yeah, but remember this is also the video that goes up too. So like worst case scenario, you can always go back. All right, let's try B. Okay, let's just decide if this factors first of all. Like, are there two numbers that multiply to give me -24 that will add to give me -8? Because if there are, this will just be a little bit easier.
No.
No, like I don't think so, because if I like 2 and 12, 3, I'm not finding any numbers. So what's my very first step I'm going to do?
Plus 24.
Right, get that 24 to the other side. Let's make some room for a new number to be there, because that number's not helping us out. And then?
Six, oh, 8, negative 8 divided by 2 squared. And that will be negative 4 squared, which equals 16. 16 and plus 16.
Good. 2, I gotta make sure I add it to both sides. That's one of the number one areas when people make a mistake, they forget to add it to both sides.
Yeah. And then we're gonna back, okay, 24 factor, which is x plus 4, my x minus 4 on both sides. And then, yeah, which is 7.
By the way, if you haven't caught on to this pattern yet, I haven't pointed this out yet, but it's good time. If you're ever looking for what this number is, like let's say you're having a difficult time factoring it, every single time, it's right there. Look,
Where?
highlighted in red.
Oh, I thought.
When you take half of that number right there before you square it, that's the number that's going to be there.
Wait, what is that? Always?
Remember when we took negative 8 divided by 2 and we got negative 4?
Oh, yeah.
It's x minus 4, x minus 4. Come back here. Remember how we took negative 2 and divided by 2 and we got negative 1?
Oh my gosh.
Let's see if it works again on the next one.
That's so
Oh, we didn't finish this. Sorry.
No, you can do
That's what exciting.
x minus.
Listen, I can skip as many as you want. It's not me who's taking the quiz, so I'll skip as much as you want. I'll take a holiday, but it's not good for you. What's my next step?
Okay,
X
x
minus
minus 4
4
squared equals 40.
Square.
And then you square root both. Yeah, squared. And then square root.
X minus 4 equals plus minus the square root of 40, which is 4 and 10, or 5 and either one is fine. Yeah.
Well, 8 and 5, I don't know the square root of 8, and I don't know the square root of 5, so those wouldn't be as good.
Now I'm going to do add,
Do you break down the square root?
If you can break them down, we got to break them down.
Okay, so x minus 4 equals plus or minus 2 square root of 10. And then you plus 4.
So it'll be 4 plus or minus 2 squared root of 10. Thanks, Brad.
X
No.
equals 0 we are.
Next part, this is, oh wait, okay. Now, here's something I notice about this that I'm about to show you a way to make this much easier. There is something about all of those numbers up there that they have in common. Right, so check it out. If this ever situation happens, here's how you can make your life a lot easier. Divide everything by negative 2. This becomes x squared. This becomes what? Positive 12x. What does the last one become?
4.
Positive 4. And what is 0 divided by negative 2?
0.
Notice how this became a lot easier there. Those are way better numbers to work with than all those negative ones. Okay, so now we go, are there two numbers that multiply to give me positive 4 that add to give me positive 12? No, so what will I do?
minus 4.
Minus 4.
Good.
And then you divide.
X squared plus 12x. We're going to leave us our gap there, and we get here.
12 divided by 2.
12 divided by 2 squared.
So the number inside would just be 6, right?
Yep. So now I know that this is on the left. It's going to be x. So this is going to be plus 36, plus 36. But when I wonder, like if I'm wondering what it factors into, it's going to be x plus 6, x plus 6.
Okay.
Negative 4 plus 36.
32.
So then x plus 6 squared equals 32 square root of both sides.
You could do 8 and 4.
What am I waiting for?
Plus or minus.
Plus or minus 8 square root of 8.
And we could do 8 and 4. I'm going to tell you right now there's a better combination, but 8 and 4 will work.
Or you could do 12 and 4.
12 and 4.
No, I'm done.
No, that's
Okay, we haven't found it yet, but I'm gonna go with 8 and 4 because, so 8 and 4 will work. It's not the best combination.
2 and 16.
What?
2 and 16.
2 and 16 will work better. And
yeah.
if you find bigger square numbers, they break down more easily. Should we use 8 and 4 though, since we all decided to go for 8 and 4?
Yes.
Because the thing is that on a test, this might be what you do. So like, let's just show how to get through it. X plus 6 is equal to plus or minus. I don't know what the square root of 8 is, but I could break it down.
4 and 2.
4 times 2, and then there's still this other square root of 4 here. So let's keep going. There's no worries.
Can you just turn it into 2?
Yep, we're going to turn all those square root of 4s into 2s. 2 times the square root of 2 times 2. What does the right-hand side become?
So you're subtracting
4.
6.
Plus or minus 4
4
square root of 2.
square root of 2.
Good. And now it's the simple version. So now what do I
So you
do?
do minus 6, x equals minus 6
Plus or minus.
plus or minus 4 square root of 2.
Beautiful. I feel like we, remember here when we had these two square root of 4s?
You could just.
Each one of them became 2. That's why we had 2 2s. I feel like that's where you were like questioning what happened, right?
I think so.
But if we had gone with 16 and 2, let's just say we had gone with 16 and 2, it would have ended up as 4 times the square root of 2, exactly what we had right there anyway. So in one step.
But Mr. Hyatt,
Yes.
they're all 2, so why did you put the square root of 2?
Because I can't break down the square root of 2, but I can break down the square root of 4. The square root of 4s became 2s. The square root of 2 I can't break down. They're not all the same thing. We are not the same, yes.
Which are you on TikTok?
Too much. Too much is the answer. That's our whole goal. All right, let's talk about this one. So notice here that they are all divisible by something. What is that something?
3.
Yes. Oh, I would do negative 3 to get rid of the negative.
I'm old.
Okay, so we get x squared plus,
3.
minus 3x equals, what is this going to be? Negative 18 divided by negative 3.
8. I lied.
6x. So, let's do this. Looks a little bit different than the others. I don't have any whole numbers, so let me just move these x's together and just see what happens. So we get, I'm just looking to see what happens. I'm being honest. I go, I don't know what this is. Because here's what I'm missing. I don't have a number there. Normally I have a number there. But here's the good thing. Even though I don't have a number there, I can still add a number there. How do I add a number there? Same way we did it before.
So negative 9
Good. Negative 9 divided by 2 squared, which becomes negative 9 squared over 2 squared, which becomes 81 over 4. So this becomes 81 over 4, and this becomes 81 over 4. So we get x squared. Now, here's why you're going to love that trick I told you. Everyone else is going to look at 81 fourths and say, how the heck do I factor that? But you are, it is going to be, what was the number that was in, like when we did like negative 9 over 2. The one that was inside. Remember, I said it was whatever was inside here. So this is going to be x minus 9 halves, x minus 9 halves, the same thing, equals 81 fourths. Where did I get that minus 9 halves? Right here. It was the same one. What? Oh, sorry. I did what?
For 81 over 2.
Oh, it was 81 fourths. Yeah, thank you. Okay, now don't be intimidated by the fractions. We're still doing the same things that we did. What is my next step?
Square root of that.
Not yet.
No,
Oh,
x minus 9 over 2 squared.
Good. So even if it looks intimidating, we're not at the point yet we should be worried about this. So far, everything's been easy. Now what?
Square root.
Square root. And we get x.
minus 9 over 2
And you
equals
get 9 over
81
2.
over 4. Plus or minus 81 over 4.
Okay.
Square root of
Which is-
81 over. Yeah.
And then
Oh,
square
you
root
get 9
of.
over 2.
Wait, then what do you do with the negative 9 over 2?
Okay, wait. So let's keep going. What can I simplify here?
4. I mean 81 and 4.
Okay, so x minus 9 halves equals plus or minus, the square root of 81 is 9. The square root of 4 is 2. So here we go. What am I going to do with that 9 halves on the...
Minus 9 minus
You're going to add.
Add 9 halves to get rid of this. And we get x is equal to 9 halves plus or minus 9 halves. Now you're like, wait, what is that though? How do I do that answer? Well, that is x equals 9 halves plus 9 halves, and x equals 9 halves minus 9 halves. I actually think the second one is easier. What is 9 halves minus 9 halves?
0.
0. Now 9 halves plus 9 halves do not fall into the trap. The answer is going to be in halves. If you add halves and halves, it doesn't become fourths on the bottom. That's what a lot of people do. When you add fractions, the denominator stays the same. What does the numerator become?
Number 2.
18 over 2, which is the same thing as? So we get 9.
Have to simplify.
Yeah, and it does take some work there, but the work that you have to do is not that bad. It all goes back to dealing with fractions.
Wait, so it's 2 answers, x equals 9 and x equals 0?
Yep.
Wait, Joe, go down.
Okay, I'm going to scroll out. Hang on.
Joe, did you have that, please?
Why don't you move up, Riley? Is there a chair up there you can move to?
Here's a
No, I
chair.
could.
My answer is 0.
9 and 0.
Huh?
You finished?
I'll tell you what, let's do this. Let's do E and F, and that'll leave us tomorrow. We only have 3 problems to do, and then so we'll do 3 problems, and then you guys will have the rest of the time for the homework. So let's do this. Let's get all the x's on the left-hand side. So let's subtract 10x, and we end up here.
X squared minus 10x
Where do we want to go from here?
minus 15.
Okay, so let's subtract 15. Now, again, there's lots of different things we could do, but I have a feeling I know what she's going to try.
Yeah, but it doesn't work.
Okay, good, but it's good that we try. So here's what we're saying. We brought it over there to see if it factored. So we're going to go, is it 1 and 15? No, that doesn't work. 3 and 5? That doesn't work. So it doesn't factor. Therefore, what am I going to do? Right, but we need to get that 15. We need to get that 15 back to where it belongs.
Add 15.
Right, get it back to where it was. So that didn't gain us anything, but one time it did. So maybe it's worth it. Now what?
Negative 10 over 2 squared.
What is negative 10 over 2? Negative 5.
25.
That becomes 25. So a positive 25. Now, very easily, what does that factor into? X
5, x
minus 5, right there. Yeah.
minus 5.
Is there supposed to be a 25 at the end of it?
Here, yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Good call. We would have all been in trouble when the answer didn't match up. So when I added the 25 here, I forgot to add it there. That's how easy it is to do.
So x minus 5 squared equals
What's 15 and 25?
40.
40. Hey.
And the square root plus x. So x minus 5 equals 40 plus or minus.
Plus or minus the square root of 40.
Plus 5 plus 5.
Yeah, we come back.
Okay.
I thought it was 35.
No, it's because of the bullying.
15 plus 25 is 40. 25 plus 10 would be 35. We'll finish this up tomorrow.